In Buddhism, you find so many different aspects of our normal sciences. Buddhism, under that headline, you can find psychology, philosophy. Within philosophy, you have metaphysics, you have epistemology, then you have logic. There's incredible works on logic within Buddhism. Then you have medicine. You have astronomy, you have poetry. You have many different, it's a whole range of subjects, a little bit like our universities. So this is what originally was Buddhism. So what Handberg is saying Buddhism is not a religion, but Buddhism has a religion. So religion is one aspect of Buddhism, but Buddhism is a science. Handberg used to call it an inner science of mind and phenomena. Buddhism is building on top of many other traditions before Buddhism. So Buddha was not a Buddhist. So Buddha was, at that time, is not called Hinduism either, but probably is called Brahmanism at that time. So he's coming out of this kind of studies and engagement. So if we look further, then there's a lot of what Handberg relate to as universalities. They're dating back, he's saying at least 5,000 years back in time. But Buddhism, you could say, has been carrying a lot of this knowledge, has been carrying it, and particularly you could say Tibetan Buddhism has been carrying this knowledge and kept it very intact and really taken care of it. And they could do that because Tibet has been so isolated. And another reason, Tibetans was taking over the old Indian philosophical studies, which you don't see any other places has been taken up. This academic approach or academic basic of Buddhism has been carried on in Tibet. So that means that the teachings has been going on from teacher to student in unbroken lines. This is a very exceptional situation. But with Tibet not being Tibet as it was in old time anymore, and the doors has been opened, that means also Tibet is influenced now by modern culture. So when Handberg, he looked further into, he's saying, what is really very important is to really save that wisdom. When relating to that, and he boiled that down into three dendrils, you can call it. Some of you know about dendral, what it means. Interdependent origination has been translated to. We normally translate it to interdependent relation. So the basic interdependent relationships that Handberg say, this is the very like a core way of describing reality and our present in reality. He described it as interrelation between subject and object, interrelation between body and mind, and interrelation between energy and matter. And this kind of constituting the basic paradigm through which Rinpoche, he is, or you can say it's a bearing of these ancient traditions, both when you look at it more from the theoretical side, but also from the practices. If you're looking into all the different practices, right from practices from sutras and tantras, then he can see also these interdependent-ships, how important they are to really as the basic paradigm. The subject-object interrelation, when they talk about that in the ancient traditions, then it's the subject is not just the person, and the object is what exists out there. Not at all. It's much more differentiated. When they talk about subject, or at least when Rinpoche talk about subject, then he's talking about a mind. One of our many minds. We have many different types of mind that we can use. But most of the time, we only think that we are using maybe one mind, or maybe we are not even concerned with. Maybe we're not really reflecting on that we have many different types of mind we're using. And maybe it's because basically we're using conceptual mind. Like now when I'm talking. When I'm talking, I'm using language. I'm using language to communicate with. And if we really consider by ourselves, saying, what is happening? What is the way that I'm experiencing most of the time in my everyday life? Then we normally think it is by means of the senses. But if we really consider and really investigate, we'll find out that a lot of the time, and maybe even most of the time, we have thoughts running. And when we have thoughts, then we have language. Then it's language reality. We're using language type of mind, conceptual mind. And what we can perceive by conceptual mind is conceptual reality. Nothing else. Because conceptual reality, they find out, just have absolutely no existence without the conceptual mind. So, and if we look in modern culture, as we are all part of, then if we're using basically conceptual mind, that means we are at a distance of everything. It's not just of everything else. We also become a distance of ourselves. Because we have all this thinking about ourselves. Just that has strong consequences in people's mental kind of state. That we are not directly in contact, not directly in our beingness. So we can't use conceptual mind for that. That's why it's important to understand and to really investigate the different types of mind, because we've got many different types of mind. They have their very specific, they're very good at. If we don't have conceptual mind, we wouldn't be able to communicate with language, we wouldn't be able to compare, to analyze. All this that's so important in our life. All this that makes us different from animals. So don't get rid of conceptual mind. But if we know how it functions, then we could also know that I can use conceptual mind for that, but when I want to do something else, then I should use another type of mind. But normally we don't have that kind of education in our kind of culture, which they do have in the ancient Eastern culture, not in the modern one. They've forgotten it all. That's why it's interesting to go back there and start to teach, because even the Tibetan young people, they don't know about what their forefathers have found out, or what they have really been studying and developing.